Thanks for listening to our podcast, Living Life with the Rogers. My name is Cameron.
And I'm Kira, and this is a lifestyle podcast where we talk about hashtag all the things. Listen in.
Hello, listeners, and thank you for listening to Living Life with the Rogers. So today we got a fun topic. It might frustrate a couple people, but that's what we are in the business of doing.
Yep, our topic is going to be patience, and a lot of people do not like patience, especially when you are driving.
So I already needed to have patience just setting up this podcast because my poor wife over here, I cannot get your vocals right, it seems like, because you kind of...
It's just because my voice isn't high and whiny.
So you say you're... So you're a hater because you say that my voice is high and whiny. I don't think you know how to... what is it? Not enunciation. It's like how to project. That's the word. You don't know how to project.
I must have a small voice box.
Oh, that's it. You got an undersized voice box?
So it has to work overtime just to get the sound out that I need to get out, and it's like it gets tired of projecting.
Well, so when I was a kid, I had speech impediments and stuff, so I had to work with a speech therapist, and I think you might have done you some service as well. And because you have so much wisdom in your tiny little small voice box of yours, and then it seems like it's hard to kind of get it out.
Or what if the baby is just sitting on my lungs so I can't get a full breath to really project my voice?
I mean, that now we might be getting somewhere. So blame it all on the baby. That's great.
That's fine. I can blame a lot of things on the baby.
All right. So did we even introduce a topic, or did we just have a wild banter?
Yeah, because you said you had to have patience to set up this podcast because
Amen.
you can't hear my voice.
All right. So I always love to start off with a little Merriam-Webster dictionary. And so bearing pains or trials calmly or without complaints. So bearing pains or trials calmly or without complaint. So that's the Webster meaning of it. I can think of a lot of different times where we've had to bear some pains and some trials. But I love that it says to do it calmly or without complaint, because I don't know if I can recall a story where I've bared a trial and I did it calmly and without complaint. And typically I do it as if there's a fire alarm going off in my head. I'm panicking. Anxiety's going through the roof. And then I'm doing nothing but whining and complaining about it.
Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people struggle with patience. I think it's probably one of the things we struggle most with as a human race because it's what our culture has bred. Our culture has bred a very fast-paced, productive, let's get things done as quickly and efficiently as we can. And therefore, we don't have to be patient with anything. I mean, think about farmers and how many people are not farmers. So it's but farmers are probably the most patient people I know because they have to take so much time and effort to plant and grow their food. But it's people are so far removed from that. So they don't understand that good things just take time and work. It's we just want everything now, and we get everything now. Hello, Amazon Prime. You want it, you got it. It's at your door that night or the next day. So patience is hard for us because we don't have to be patient.
Yep. So Amazon, it's all Amazon's fault, which I am completely ready to cancel Amazon, which would be great. I would be a big proponent of that.
Yeah, well, sometimes mom brain and kids screws you up because you're like, shoot, I forgot this, and then you need it really fast, and you're like, well, Amazon's my only hope at saving this school project or whatever you need at the last minute. So what are the benefits of becoming a patient person?
Let's see. The benefits of becoming a patient person, wouldn't you say that you learn to appreciate the void in between? I feel like our culture teaches us that while you wait for something, it's nothing but suffering, pain, and exhaustion. And there's this void spot in time that you can learn to embrace and appreciate if you would just give in to the patience. So I feel like we just go, oh, when our kids are finally potty trained, oh, when I finally get the promotion, or oh, when this finally works out, I'll be happy and find joy. And what you miss is the time in between. So you just suffer, you're miserable, you whine, you complain, you wonder why anxiety is going through the roof, and you didn't realize that the journey is almost the best part, right? So
Yeah.
you would find the blessings in the journey, and you wouldn't have to wait till the thing arrives, the promotion comes, the kids are finally potty trained to find that joy and happiness, right?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of peace and goodness to be found in the process, and I think yeah, that's a good point about people always look towards like the conclusion or the culmination of something instead of really leaning into the journey, and then they get there and they're like, "Oh, well this is like good." But, in your head you had made it up to be this like big thing and like, "Oh, when I finally," but it's like no, like the good was like working for something, like, you know, finding purpose in your day because you're like, man, I'm working towards this goal. Like, I'm making progress. I'm putting in effort. I'm working. Like, that's the satisfying part. When you finally get it, it's not, I mean, it feels good, but the process is just as satisfying. So I think there's a lot of like peace and accomplishment and purpose to be found in the process of waiting for something. Also, too, the thing that you're working for, that you're wanting, is made that much sweeter and that much like that much better when there is a process leading up to it. So like I don't think that you value or appreciate things like accomplishments or something that you get unless there was work to be had on the front end and it was a process or it took time or effort, because if it's like you just got it right, that doesn't feel good. You're just like, oh, I just got this. Okay, you don't. It really doesn't feel that good. So I think the longer the process and the more you work for it, it makes the arrival of that thing that you're working for or the thing that you get that much better.
So are you just basically talking about your pregnancy and when this baby finally comes? Is that your what's going on with your life?
I mean, I think yeah, you appreciate actually hold. I think the moment that you get to finally get the baby out of you and you hold the baby is made so it's such a sweet moment because you have put in 10 months of hard work to get to that point. Like, you're sick, you're tired, you're uncomfortable, all these like all these things that aren't necessarily fun to experience, but they make it a journey, they make it a process, and then it's so rewarding when you finally hold your baby because you're like, damn, I did that.
What are some things that you've had to wait for that you were frustrated during the time of waiting,
Well,
waited?
so speaking of this, so Zoe came, my third baby came a week and a day late, and we had canceled things pretty much like from 38 weeks on. So like there was 3 weeks where we really didn't have a lot going on, and it was just like every day I was like, okay, is she gonna come? Come on, I wanna be in labor. I wanna get this baby out. And so she ended up going 41 weeks and a day, which was like every day counts when you get to the end because you are just done. You're uncomfortable, you're swollen, you're yada yada yada. So I feel like I like not wasted a lot of those days, but I feel like I could have, I don't know. I feel like I could have enjoyed them a little bit more, been a little bit, filled my days with a little bit more purpose in waiting for her to come. So this time around, I don't know when this baby's going to come, but we purposely like planned a vacation up to like 38 weeks cuz I'm like, well, this is the time that we have. Let's make the most of it. Let's make memories with the kids. And I'm still working. I still have projects I can get done. Like I feel like I'm not going to just sit around and just wait for this baby to come and just like watch the hours and the minutes and the seconds tick away. I'm going to this is the process I'm in. She's going to come when she's ready, and let's fill the time with good things while I'm waiting for her to come instead of just wasting and moaning and complaining about the time that's going by.
So, any other things that you had to wait for? Maybe things that took years for you to finally get that caused you some heartache and frustration.
I think building my photography business might have been a good example because I don't feel like it was really successful until like maybe year 5 or 6. So there was a lot of years of just doing little things that I'm like, well, I hope this is going to help me grow it, and learning, shooting with people, networking, building a website. Like there was all these like little steps that I had to do to get to making it a successful business, but it took years of work, and it was like each year I would see like a little bit more success, a little bit. And then one day I was just like, "Oh, okay, this is when I originally opened this business, like I'm at that goal that I reached." And like it felt good, but the building of it was where the good stuff was. It was like, you know, really had to like focus and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And then before I knew it, I was like up at the finish line. I was like, all right, this was great. But yeah, I think, it took 5 or 6 years to really be like, oh, this is an actual successful business.
Well, you kind of alluded to a great point. Everybody wants that mountaintop view and mountaintop experience, but life has given us cheats, and they've given us things such as like an elevator to the top. And so then everybody gets to the top, and since they took the cheat option, which is the lack of patience, just forcing situations, forcing stuff to happen, they've then taken the escalator, elevator, whatever you want to call it, to the top of the mountain. Then they get up there, and you almost take the view for granted when you get up there because it wasn't earned, right? So we live in a culture where we've gotten away from earning things. We've just, you just automatically click your fingers, and it's like this entitlement, and you get it. What's interesting is that for the people that are doing the traditional hiking and working towards that, stay focused on your hike one step at a time. Don't worry about, if other people are cheating, if other people are doing things differently. Stay true to yourself, because when you finally get up to that view, to that mountaintop, you're just going to automatically appreciate it a lot more.
Yeah, and I think it's cool. Like sometimes on social media, people only show their mountaintop moments, but I feel like people these days are showing a little bit more of like the behind the scenes, like the amount of time and effort that went into getting to where they are. So it's like it's cool when people like let you in on it, because then you're like, okay, wow, they didn't just experience this success overnight. They really put in the time and effort, and it took them a lot of work to get to. Like anything you see that's good, there is work that goes in behind it. But I think I think we could all benefit from just enjoying the process more, looking for the little victories on the journey, like the little wins, instead of just focusing on the big win. And just having more just like peace in a slow process. Like I think when things are rushed, that's when we feel like anxious and like kind of out of control. But when we just really slow down and enjoy the journey, we can find a lot of peace in the journey. I think that you can really lean into your relationship with Jesus and grow in that and feel his presence and his comfort a lot through those seasons, because you're not quote unquote getting what you want. So sometimes it's like a last resort. You're like, well, I have to turn to him because I feel really lonely and, lost and afraid. So I think that is one of the biggest blessings that comes from seasons where you are waiting or you feel like things just aren't falling into place, is that you can really press into your relationship with the Lord.
Yeah, and this verse comes to mind. It's in Psalms 27:14, and I feel like God and the author of this book, David, really gets our culture, and it hits home today. And so he says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong, and take heart, and wait for the Lord." And I know I didn't just stutter. It was me saying "wait for the Lord" 2 times, because I feel like we need that reminder. We so easily forget that it's all really God's timing. We're all on this planet Earth because of him, and it's really his timing on things. His timing is always the best. And the second part of this, he says, wait for the Lord, but he says, be strong and take heart. And the one thing that hit me is like, true strength is waiting and doing it calmly and doing it without complaining. That shows true strength in an individual. Someone that can go, you know what? My Amazon package is getting delayed, and you know what? I'm okay with it, right? Somebody that can sit there and go, you know what? This isn't my dream job right now, but I understand this is a season. I understand this is a part of life. And so I'm going to count my blessings. I'm going to count my joy knowing that God's got my hand. It doesn't hurt to put your resume out there. It doesn't hurt to seek other opportunities, but you can do it in a calm, and you can calm manner, and you can do it without complaining.
Yeah, that's good. How do we cultivate patience in kids these days? Because it's like getting worse. Like I feel like obviously when we were kids, we had to be more patient with things because we didn't have the smartphones and the YouTube and our parents were like, go outside and run in the woods. And it was like there was just less for us to be like impulsive with, if that makes sense. So like kids these days, like, okay, well, if they don't like the video on YouTube, then they just like flip to the next one. They get things a lot quicker and things are more accessible to them. So what are some ways we can cultivate patience in the next generation?
This is easy. Go buy a patch of land somewhere out in the boonies and just live like the old timers, and and just cut your electricity and just do everything by candlelight. Honestly, it feels like that. Take everything that the culture is shoving into your face and into our children's faces and reject it. Put your hand up and say no. Limit. See, we're not very yuppie, I don't feel like, but we do to some degree. Like our kids watch TV. We're not sitting there saying, "Oh, they don't watch TV. They don't have a tablet. They don't do." You limit things, right? And then go out into nature. This is the one thing that I'm a huge on. I take all my kids fishing. I take all my kids on hikes. I take all my kids out for a walk, and we just, I put my phone away. Honestly, half the time I have my phone is so that you can get a hold of me just in case you need to get a hold of me. If not, I would probably live off the grid. But your kids are going to go at the speed that you go. So if you're always frantic and you're always on your phone and you're always moving a mile a minute and doing multitasking and doing two things at a time, then they're going to learn to do the same thing. So I've had to sit there and go, let's. And 2020 was great for this because we had nothing better to do. So I was like, let's just take a walk. And we just took a walk. We didn't know where we were going. We looked at the birds. We looked at the different plants. We saw cacti growing in an area where, I mean, we're in Maryland, so for like cactus to be present is very bizarre. So we spotted that. We just kind of like spotted things out in nature that we normally wouldn't have really cared about.
Yeah, and like even when we're on like car rides, sometimes we'll be like, I'm bored. And I'm like, okay, good. Like be bored. Like
Good for
look
you.
out the window. Like just let your brain rest. Like because like sit in this car. Yes, they're always like, I wish Ocean City was like just a minute away. Like they think that like 3 hours to drive is like so long. And I'm
Feels like
like,
an eternity to them.
yeah, and I'm like, but it's good. Like I'm like, okay, you're bored. That's okay. That's fine. Be bored. Like that's good for your brain. Give your brain a little rest for the love. Like let your brain shut down for a hot second. Like lose yourself in thought while you're staring out the window at cornfields. Like so yeah, I think like saying no to I mean, again, Cameron was saying like they do YouTube Kids. They have their hour of it or what 2 hours in the summer because they're home for like 10,000 hours a day, but like there should be limits on it, and we try and engage them in things that require them to be patient. I know you started a garden outside, which I'm not I'm not the best at gardening or all of that, but
Hey, with Miracle-Gro, you don't have to be that great anymore, right?
yeah, no, I think like sometimes like I'll do like crafts with them and we really like sit. I've noticed too, like kids are quick to like hop from like activity to activity. So like
Oh my
that
goodness. Yeah, that's like a real thing now. It's like these kids come, oh, I want to play with, oh, I just want to, and then by the time like we had some kids over and I was setting up our little Nintendo Wii, so they wanted to play like FIFA. I turn it on. By the time I get it on, they're on to like they're like two activities ahead of me, and it took me like 30 seconds
But
to
we
set
tell
up.
them, we're like, no, like if you're gonna pick an activity and you have to do it for 45 minutes to an hour, like you need to like see this activity through, and then you need to clean it up before you go to the next. Like, it's just like these simple things. I feel like that's teaching them like, no, we're not gonna constantly just jump to this, entertain you this way, do this that. Like, let's be patient. Let's see this through and let's do one thing at a time here, like calm your tits, like, just kind of keep them from having that like YouTube ADD where they just swipe, jump,
Well,
this, that,
well,
this, that.
gardening's great for, and that's what's so funny is we always like, well, how do you help kids? Well, help yourself. Start there, and that's for everything. If you want kids, if you want those around you, if you want anybody that you influence to have these attributes, do it yourself. and be the example. So like gardening, I'm like, yeah, why am I going to do this when I can just go to the store and just be done with it already? And but it teaches you, okay, so you go out there, it took me what, like 2 minutes to kind of set up the planter box, stir the soil, water it, etc. But we check on it every day. It gives us something, like when we come home from like activities or school or whatever, we go over to the boxes, see how they're doing. But it's the journey. So as much as I want to try to teach my kids to be patient, I put myself on trial first and go, okay, the second we get done a busy day, my tendency is to sit on the couch and what do I want to do? Go on social media, and you want to start going swipe crazy and going nuts on it. So it's like when that hits you, stop and just take a second, go, all right, is this what I should really be doing? And the best thing that I've done is I put the Bible app on my phone, because I'm like, well, nowadays we have way too much time on our phones and we're always on them. So it's very convicting. I put all the alerts on it and everything, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to be on my phone, might as well be doing something productive. So taking something that would normally be a time suck and making it productive.
Yeah, and I think finding something that your kids love and then encouraging them to like work to see progress in it. Like Callie's soccer team last year, it was a brand new team. Like the coaches were really, they wanted to teach the kids certain positions, certain strategies, and it took a long time. Like they were losing all of their games in the beginning of the season. It was a little bit discouraging, but it was great character building. But anyway, then by the end of the season, Callie got to see how the team started to make the play, like, and then they started winning. And so it was like cool for her to see that, like, hey, you don't just join the soccer team and then just like automatically start winning. You guys have to learn how to play together. You have to learn the positions. So that was a good way, I think, for her to learn a little bit of patience and perseverance, was through her sports. And, I think also like I have a hard time sitting still. So like I'm definitely not the most patient person, but and I don't love to read, but I make myself read, because that's something where you have to sit there and you have to focus. You have to follow one storyline, and it takes you a while to get through a book. A book's like, what, 200, 300, 400 pages. It's like you really have to wait for the, the plot? I told you guys I don't like to read. Like you have to wait for the story to develop.
Well, the story builds, yes. It develops. That's great.
Like usually it doesn't get like really good till like halfway or 3/4, and sometimes it takes me forever just to get there. But I make myself do it because it's how I'm teaching myself to be patient and to stick with one thing. And
it's retraining the mind, right?
Yeah.
Your mind sits there. Like a lot of us. I was born in the '80s. You're what, 1990. And so we learned.
Are we millennials? We're millennials, right?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means anymore. But we learned how to entertain ourselves. We learned I could just play out in the dirt for hours, right? And then so our brain was wired to be able to be somewhat patient. Now, the 90s started kicking off, late 90s, where we started getting introduced computers, technology. Things have sped up in the 2000s. It sped up just quadruple fold. I mean, I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what it feels. It's just gone crazy how fast things are. So we rewired our brains to adjust to this insanely rapid pace that, what the best thing we could ever do is jump off that boat. Get off that. This new 2023, where nowadays we watch a movie while we're on our phones, and what are we, like, checking our stocks while we're being entertained, while we're yelling at our kids all at the same time. It's the stupidest thing. Get off the ship, get off the boat, abandon it, because that pace is only meant to destroy us. It really was. This pace in 2023, and this is my little rant. Sorry for this. It was designed by the devil to destroy us, to go at a pace where we break down as individuals, where we go into more mental breakdowns, and then we pass that crap on to our kids.
Yeah, well,
and that's what it was designed for.
Satan's ultimate goal is to break down the family. So, like, if you can get the head of the household broken down through distractions, fast-paced, basically ruin their health, mental and physical, then you start destroying the whole family. So it's like that. It makes sense why that is the way it is. But I think, it's like, I think people are just afraid to say like no to their kids, or like have them be bored, but it's like, give them the opportunity. Like, kids are naturally creative. Like, they'll come up with things to do, things to keep busy with. Like, I love when our kids like go get a cardboard box and make like a shop or something. Like, because if you tell them, like, if you set the boundaries and say we're not doing technology, or we're we're not doing this. We'll give you like one activity to do a day. And then guess what? You have like 2 hours you need to fill with something. They will be creative and they will find ways to fill the time. So I think just putting those boundaries up with them really helps them to learn patience and focus and perseverance.
So that leads us to our unpopular opinion segment. So I'm going to kick it off. My unpopular opinion is that it's okay to not have an answer for something and to let something sit. And it also works with conversations. It works with tasks, such as things you need to get done around the house. It works with parenting. It works with relationships, all sorts of things. I'll give you a legit example. So I was actually working on my car and I was working on the family van and I was changing out the brakes. And I ran into this one issue and everything that I was doing was not working. So, typical Cameron fashion, which I've done in the past, is just get brutally mad, try to beat the living daylights out of that part to make it work, and then get upset, and then maybe come inside, scream at everybody, and just disrupt everything. So, in the past, it's what I've done, and it goes nowhere. So, this whole kind of thing I've been working on is working on my mental health, working on being patient, kind of thinking things through. So what I did this time is I ran into that issue, and then I just took a break. So I went inside, I took a sip of water, and I prayed, and I just asked God. I said, God, like help me, like what do I need to do? And sometimes God gives me answers right away. Sometimes I get nothing forever. Sometimes I get stuff. So I just kind of did something different. I just went inside the house, played with the kids for a little bit, and it was like the craziest thing. This light bulb just came off in my head. I was like, oh, shoot, this is what I need to do. So I believe it's a God thing. So I went outside, boom, worked beautifully, got back to it. Now, that's a very dramatic, quick example because there's a lot of times where, and I've been in the season of life, like I'll use my jobs, for instance, where I ask God, like, God, what do I do? Like, I feel like I'm not doing something I enjoy doing. And that journey was probably about 6-7 years. So, it's not always instantaneous. But my whole point being is that letting things sit and letting time breathe, maybe it's better to not, every night before you go to bed, you want to clean the dishes and get it all done. Well, maybe tonight just let them sit, right? Show the patience in, just by taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I think as someone who like loves efficiency and productivity, and I can't sit still. So like it can be hard for me to like let things just sit and breathe. Like I want everything to be like done, checked off the list, taken care of. Like let's move on to the next task. And so it's hard for me to let things sit. Like I remember when we were going through some like drama with people, and I'm not going to give specifics because I don't want to throw anybody in the bus, but like we were going through some drama and I was like, well, what's our next step? Like, what's our next conversation? And you were like, nothing right now. Like, we're just going to let it be. We're going to let it breathe. We're going to give it some time. And I had such a hard time with that. I was like, but I need to know what's the next step. Like, how are we going to fix this? How are we going to make progress? Like, I'm such a progress gal. Like, even if I don't, if the result's not like right around the corner, I want to at least know that I'm making progress towards a goal. Like I always have a goal of some sort going on. So like that can be hard for me, but it forces you to be patient. Like it puts you in the situation where you're like you don't have a choice but to practice patience, and it's good for us.
And I can't hit this point enough. Is it's doing it calmly or without complaint, and it's convict. As I'm speaking, I'm convicted by that because I'm like, how many times I technically waited, but I was floundering. I wasn't, being truly calm. I wasn't being truly, I was annoyed.
Peaceful, which I
Yeah.
think is like again going back to the beginning where we talk about like the benefits of being a patient person. I think patient people are very peaceful because they're comfortable with just letting things be, letting things take time, letting things play out, not always having all the answers. So I think that when you are not a patient person or it's something that you need to grow in, you lack a lot of peace.
Now, I'm actually kind of pumped for yours, so let's go into your unpopular opinion.
So I think my unpopular opinion is that being told no or not getting what you want is really good for us because, again, what I'm saying is that we struggle putting ourselves in situations where we have to be patient. But when we are told no and we do not get what we want, it forces us to be patient. So I think that is such a gift from God when he says no and when he makes us wait or work hard for something, because he is literally growing us and making us a patient person. And again, like I said, there's so much peace, goodness, and joy to be found in the process of something. I think of like all my fitness journeys. I'm going to have to go on another fitness journey after this baby, which hopefully it'll be a little bit easier than the last because I actually tried to take care of myself this time around. But like every time I go through the journey, I'm like, man, it's so good for me, because you cannot get fitness gains, fitness results overnight. You have to put in the time and the work to get to the goals that you want to get to. So that's another way that I teach myself patience. I would say my two biggest are through reading and through working out, because there is no way to get immediate success and results through both of those activities. So that's just one way, or two ways, I guess, that I practice patience. But again, sometimes the scale will be like, nope, that's not what you want. And I'm like, dang it. But then I dig deep and I work harder and I persevere. And then again, when I finally get to that mountaintop, it is so much sweeter than it would have been if he would have just given me the overnight success that I was looking for.
And just a short piggyback off of that, you're saying, a lot of people can relate with what you just said, and when God kind of gives you a season of no. But I think in between those times, telling yourself no to certain things can be the best training tool to start cultivating patience in between. So, for instance, like, I'm kind of a person that always wants my Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Like, I want it in the morning, I want it in the afternoon, I want it all the time. It's like my problem fixer, right? And so, for example, after a workout, I kind of look forward to my coffee. And I've done this many times where it's kind of like my reward thing for a workout, where I've just driven right past, and unfortunately Dunkin' Donuts is like right on our path from the gym to home, and I've just said no. I'm like, no, I'm just going to skip it today. And so I've deprived myself of something that I want to retrain my brain that I don't always get what I want when I want it, right?
Do you die when you don't have Dunkin' Donuts?
That's a double-edged sword, because I feel like I'm dying a little bit, but I guess I still got breath in my lungs, so.
Yeah, we make it and we're fine and the world keeps spinning, and guess what? We don't always have to have everything that we want.
Yeah, even if it's Dunkin' Donuts coffee, which, I love it so much.
Listen, you know how many Instagram ads I say no to on the regular, because my Instagram ads are so spot on for me and my likes and my desires, and I say no a lot. Despite what you may think, I exercise a lot of patience in saving money and not buying every single thing
I got a great last minute tip. So for those that are having the same issue that Kira has, where your phone's giving you ads and you just can't say no, throw the phone in the closest body of water. It can be a bathtub, a sink, whatever. Just throw it in there and just be done. Be done with it.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's going to happen. But that is our episode on patience. Thank you for being patient and listening all the way.
Well, if you know what, if you didn't listen to this whole entire thing, it just
you
shows
need to work on patience.
It just shows your lack of patience. Or if maybe you did get to the end, but the whole time you were complaining about how horrible the episode was, then clearly you need to show signs of patience. Yeah, do it calmly next time as you listen to our full podcast.
Yeah, but I do think that patience is an underrated attribute that we could all use a little bit of growing in, and I think that it will bring us a lot of peace and contentment in our lives. So thank you guys for listening. If you want to hear more episodes, you can follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We did launch a new Instagram page. It's Living Life with the Rogers Family, and I'm going to try and just keep all podcast related things to that page instead of mixing it with my photography page. So you can find that, give it a follow, DM us, whatever you would like to do. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Living Life with the Rogers with Cameron and Kira.
You can find us over on Instagram at Living Life with the Rogers Family. We love to post on there, and we will check in on DMs and comments and get back to you guys if you have any questions. And if you would like to hear future episodes, make sure you follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See ya!